Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Boz from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is my co-host, the wizard himself, Mr. Trumpmania, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, and today is a special day. The return of one of our favorite guests, and really a platform that we talk about every week, just because there's so much news, and it's really a driver of the pro wrestling business and industry these days. We welcome Michael Weber, the co-founder and COO of FITE, which everyone knows is a leading pay-per-view service by any metric: viewers, buys, and events. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to be returning.
So, what is the latest with Fight? What is going on? I know, like Lavie said, how popular you guys are and are continue to be. What's going on? What's the latest?
Well, we got some good stuff going on. January is a little quiet. There just weren't that many events there, but we're right back to doing, 20, 30, 40 live shows a weekend now. We just did the big Jake Paul, Tommy Fury fight last weekend, which did very well. And we didn't even have rights in the U.S. and in the UK, and we still did a pretty reasonable number there in those other countries. This week, speaking of sort of the same context there, AEW has a Revolution, their wrestling show on Sunday, and we do not have rights in the United States, but we'll still do some serious numbers, buys around the world for them. So, and then probably the other really big thing in our world is Fight Plus. We've been doubling down on Fight Plus. It's growing by leaps and bounds. It's really coming together well. We're very excited about the long-term potential of it. And actually, I do have one more, and this is something we have never talked about, and we haven't really done much publicizing, but it's just starting to take hold now after working on it for over a year or two. And it's our FAST channel called Fight 24/7. We just yesterday surpassed over 1 million viewers, 1 million hours of viewers in the last year. And that's a quite accomplishment for something that's been sort of under the radar.
That's amazing. Damn amazing. And I feel like the fast channels are something that's really, really picking up steam. Have you noticed that even more so than Fight itself?
Well, it's in a different way. Fast channels are free viewing, and of course, 90% of our program is either pay-per-view or subscription or both. So it's not exactly apples and oranges comparison, but since we got on Roku in 1st November, we've seen a hockey stick on the numbers of viewerships there. So that's been a real big score. And we're working on a couple other comparable platforms to the Roku level, much more mainstream than the smaller platforms are on. And it's just a good way to get more exposure for our programmers and for our brand Fight.
Why is Roku kind of so important and so big? Because I kind of got Lavie into Roku and telling him how great it was. But why do you guys kind of see that with Roku?
Well, Roku's just doing a good job of self-promotion, developing their own channel pretty much of programming and stuff, and having, I believe there's 23 sports-oriented fast channels they have on now. And I think we're like ranked around 10th or 11th of those 23. So we're doing quite well. You got to remember, we're shoulder to shoulder now with, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, sports channels, and then there's Fight. So we're in very good company there. But being beyond sports, they've done a good job here recently. They have a good product, and it really works for them because I happen to have one. Having Roku TVs set up, being sold in Walmart, that appeals to the masses. And what's cool about this TV is if you haven't used a Roku TV, it's internet first, television second. So you have access and easier to scroll between a YouTube channel and Prime or Netflix. It's much easier than on most other platforms where it's harder to find those other channels there. And Roku's just done a good job with that and made it much easier there. And it's comparable to how easy it was to figure out what cable channel you wanted to watch 5-10 years ago. So I see good things for them. The only thing I don't say it's a negative, but sort of surprising about Roku is they really have no footprint outside the U.S. As you know, with Fight, we do a lot of international business there. And where Roku could be, say, 20%, 25% of our business, which is a big chunk of it here in the U.S., is probably 2% of our business outside the U.S.
Man, I love my Roku. I actually have 4 of them in my house. So, I mean, that's like my go-to is using the Roku. It's just so easy. Like you said, internet first. The kids love YouTube and stuff. I mean, it's just so easy to
Well,
navigate.
and then Roku TV built with it all in is even better.
Yes, yeah, I got one of those. So yeah, yep,
But
yep.
you notice how easy they are to work with. It's really good. Yeah. So, and that has benefited us, and I'm assume it's benefited other programmers like us too. So it's always about the platform.
When you guys are on there and doing the fast, what kind of wrestling stuff is on there?
Oh, it varies because one of the keys to it, you got to keep a fresh rotation of programming. So we change. I think every day we change 8 hours of programming. So it's always fresh. So we'll cycle through probably over 240 hours worth of programming each week, and it just keeps going on and on. So it's wrestling, it's boxing. Frankly, what some of the best viewing was some grappling that we've had, some MMA programming, and I think that's one of the keys for us is that depth and variety. So it's a little bit of everything, but it's not like we're not airing AEW because we don't have rights in the U.S. and we want to stay that for AEW Plus. So we're not airing, there's no Impact Wrestling on there. There's no New Japan Wrestling on those. Those are for the paying channels. So, but it's a heavy rotation, and I cannot recite every single one because it changes so quick on me.
What, as far as like fight, regular fight or fight plus, what is like the most popular thing on there without getting obviously into too much of the numbers and stuff, but would it be like a GCW? Is that like the biggest benefit for fight plus? Have they kind of been the catalyst
Well,
for
Fight Plus has positively been a catalyst, adding them on, taking their fan base from pay-per-view programming to Fight Plus has definitely been a benefit. You can see an obvious spike. It's no different as you probably, if you guys follow your numbers, if you look at AEW's ratings, interest, and everything, and you got the CM Punk spike there in August of 2021, I guess it was now, when he came on board. We saw our AEW Plus numbers go up. We saw our just general ratings went up and everything like that. So we had a similar spike with that GCW being added. It was not a real big gamble on our part because we already knew how many viewers GCW had on a regular basis, all their shows. And moving them from pay-per-view to Fight Plus was a win-win. It made their product available to a larger number of people, and the GCW fans actually are getting a much better bargain now to watch what they want to see. And of course, we're benefiting because Fight Plus has increased its number of subscribers because of that.
when you look at as far as just the wrestling popularity, is it dominated by wrestling though, just in general, Fight Plus, or is it some you got boxing, you got other different
Well,
venues too?
in general, wrestling is very heavy on Fight Plus, but last weekend, I think it was just last weekend, and if it wasn't last week, it was weekend before, they run together this time of the year, is we had our top 5 shows and none of them were wrestling. We had bare knuckle fighting on there. We had some grappling events. We had some MMA. We had a boxing event. So it's not necessarily all wrestling all the time, but it's a lot of wrestling and doing well. And as you probably have seen, we just announced as of Wednesday, we're added Insane Championship Wrestling from Scotland. Very niche but popular programming. We actually worked with them when we first started the company about 7 years ago. And of course, then they did a deal with WWE, and it was sort of nice to welcome them back after being gone almost 5 or 6 years from us. But bare knuckle fighting, they're doing about 3 shows a week. 3 shows a month, and we got a show from London of theirs tomorrow, and those now are available on Fight Plus, and we're seeing another lift because bare knuckle fighting, as you probably know, has a pretty strong following as well.
I was watching bare knuckle. It gets you excited. So it's one of those things where I think maybe for now it's popular, but I don't know. I kind of like it just because the action. the guys had to be a little bit closer. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's a little bit more exciting of a.
Well, the thing that gets me, just being an event person, been doing this forever, they're well-produced shows. There's no lags in the show. Let's get past what's actually in the ring and stuff. Like they go from bout to bout to bout. They don't have long people talking and thanking everybody in the audience and anybody they ever met, that kind of stuff. They go right to it and get to the action and consistency in the commentary and the fighting. They've done a very good job with that. And there's enough people in mid-level boxing and stuff like that want to do these ceremonial type things. And the people don't really care about it. They want to see the fights. And Bare Knuckles done a very good job with that. And I think that's why they're going to be around for a long time.
Lavie, I know you're chomping at the bit. You got a lot of questions for Mike.
Many, as we've learned. So talking about Bare Knuckle, I've been following that story for a while, which is really interesting. As I understand it, they started up as an independent company. FITE's parent, Triller, acquired them. And now here they are, a big part of FITE. So in my mind for a while, just because FITE is so big on pro wrestling, have you ever considered a pro wrestling promotion acquisition or starting up your own promotion?
Well, while we would have the tools and I have some of a background to do it, hell no, we don't want to do that. And the real reason is that, one, we don't want to be have people think we're choosing sides and stuff and only looking out for the company we did. Matter of fact, a case in point, in the grappling world, Flow Sports did exactly that. They started their own Flow Grappling League and completely have alienated all the other grappling companies. And guess what? They've all come to FITE. So that we never thought we should do it, and we never, wanted to do it. And now we've seen the test case there, why we shouldn't have done it, and we're not going to do it. So I think it'd be a very bad move on our part. We have a very good relationship with all our promoters. We love them all. We think they like us, and I think if we started another company, it would burn a few bridges.
No, for sure. And I think, just speaking about promotions, really working with you, I think the case of Brett Lauderdale and GCW is really a testament to that. Without getting into the details of what's been public, right? It was a little bit of a rough go for the company in terms of streaming world and commitments. And look, they've had a great relationship with FITE, and they were willing to go all in with FITE Plus.
No, they've been a great partner. I like working with Brett. Matter of fact, I'm working on our scheduling right now for WrestleMania weekend in LA. They got 11 shows they're doing with us. We're excited about it. The Ukrainian Cultural Center will be the center of the independent wrestling world for 2-3 days there in LA. Of course, that weekend we also have the New Japan Impact show. We also have a Tokyo Joshi show. We also are doing the Ring of Honors show international outside the U.S. So we got some good programs on the schedule for that weekend.
So speaking about the GCW weekend, one of the interesting, there's several interesting shows, but a couple of those shows involve DDT, which is, of course, part of the portfolio of this gigantic conglomerate in Japan, Cyber Agent, who already has Wrestle Universe. So I know you're great at navigating between, all the different corporations and companies. So how does a deal like that work out when they already have their own streaming company?
We fortunately, Cyber Noah, which is the division that owns Noah, we did, Sting and Muda and Darby Allin was in their 6-man tag there. I think I was late January, and it went quite well. We've had a good relationship with Noah for a while now. And Tokyo Joshi is actually a Cyber Fight product as well. And now in the case of the Tokyo Joshi show from LA, it's exclusively on FITE. They obviously like their own platform, but they also are realists and know their platform is very Japanese oriented, and their fan base is probably 90-95% in Japan. So we complement what they're doing, and it works for both of us. There's no hesitation on our end about trying to work with them. and they feel comfortable. It's just almost like found money over and above what they got there. And we talk to a larger group of people than the universe does for them.
So, speaking about navigating relationships, I think one of the interesting things is as a company like AEW grows, it looks like they're looking for different forms of distribution, of course. There's wonderful AEW Plus, of course, but it looks like they're beginning to develop more international partnerships like Australia. And one of the things that I noticed was they announced that deal. It looked like they sent the press release. And shortly afterwards, one arrived from FITE, reminding everyone that it's still the best way to watch AEW. So, is there a little bit of coordination that could work out a little bit better, or was that just timing wise?
It could have been done a little better because, frankly, the release that came out, and I think they would not. We've already had the conversation. I don't dispute it. It was a little misleading. The word exclusive should not have been in there. They didn't have to put us in there, but they shouldn't put exclusive because it's not exclusive. And we have no problem working with another company like that. We've been doing it from day one in the UK, where our AEW airs on FITE live, and then 3 days later airs on ITV in London or UK, and they're getting record viewership, and we're getting great viewership on our platform. So we're both winning. Yeah, I think that's what's going to work. How it's going to work out in Australia. I mean, ESPN is not as available in Australia as we're all used to in the United States. It's still there though, and they're going to air one or two events live, but generally speaking, they're airing on delay as well. And what they'll never have is the library that we've accumulated since we've aired every single AEW show ever on our platform. So that's one of the advantages of subscription services in general, is that you can go down that rabbit hole and watch as many different shows as you want from the past.
So another relationship with FITE that still continues to today is with the NWA. And, from the outside, it appears they're still finding sort of like, what's the right mix? Are we on YouTube? Are we on FITE? Are we behind a paywall? And so on. And now if I remember correctly, they're on FITE in terms of pay-per-view, but in terms of their weekly programming, they're distributing it without a paywall, and they're not in FITE Plus. So, how is that relationship going? And what do you think is the best mix for them?
Well, we got a good relationship with Billy and his team. We enjoyed working with them. I like their product. They made a decision where collectively they thought it was better that they could get more eyeballs on the program through YouTube, which is probably hard to really fight that thought, because YouTube is a good platform for that. Matter of fact, we're putting more and more teasers or shoulder program on YouTube ourselves, because YouTube is a good international search engine for video, for lack of a better way of saying it, maybe. And it draws people to us. And so we've fully encouraged them. They want to put their program on YouTube, and we feel it's an added benefit, a way to market their programming on pay-per-view, because we still have, the probably one of the best pay-per-view models to work with.
So as we've seen FITE Plus grow, so not just with GCW, but really a depth of so many promotions, what I like to consider like buzzworthy promotions. Our friends at PW Ponderings, Luis Perez, is really keeping me updated as companies transition. So we've seen a transition from various platforms, which we don't have to get into specifically, but how do these promotions migrate their way over? Meaning that is there someone at FITE like watching to see like, this company is getting a lot of retweets, or it seems like they're getting a lot of interest, or the promotions are finding their way to you?
They're finding their way to us, but it has been with some helpful hands of people like Brett Lauderdale, for example. He's made a lot of recommendations. Hey, Mike, you need to talk to this company, or expect to hear from them. We like them. We think they got some potential for you. So there's been a lot of recommendations to this, and then people just cold contact us, and we do a little research, and if they're not too screwed up, we'll put them on our platform. Because listen, there's still some programs that really they're not ready for TV yet. I know they're working on it, and it will come, but they're not always ready. But we're trying to work with about as many as we can right now.
So, in terms of the analytics, with pro wrestling and other sports, including rugby, are there ones that you find translate over better in a general sense, and certain promotions that have more sports interest, or it's really all sort of even?
Well, I mean, one thing we have with the analytics and having 7 years of it and thousands of shows is wrestling fans, boxing fans, viewing habits, buying habits are completely polar opposite, and very little crossover. And then there's MMA and bare knuckle sort of in the middle. So, but we have a lot of good information to make decisions about how to market them and promote them and so forth. And it really makes a difference there. So there's a lot of good information there. And we're still getting our feet wet in the soccer and rugby world, but it seems to be coming together pretty good. And we're now working on a couple other, well, European football programming, soccer for the United States that we're working on right now. So I think over the next 6-7 months of the summer, you're going to see some good programming. Does a boxing or wrestling fan like watching soccer? Probably not. But what soccer fans like, that boxing and wrestling fans like, is that we have a good platform for the watch on, have a good user experience. And that is, I think I may have said this in the previous interview we did, is whoever has the best technology and wins. And that's something I will put our technology up against anything out there, including ESPN Plus and Peacock and all those kind of guys. They do good, but we do as well, if not better. And if it's a good viewing experience, easy to find, that is going to make it work.
So apologies, but I have a new question that speaks to
Sure.
the broader market. So the regional sports networks, we see with Sinclair that their diamond division may go bankrupt. Some of the leagues may pull that back. If you were called to advise, only if you had more than 24 hours in a day, to advise these leagues, if they get the rights back, what should they do?
I mean, Major League Baseball is an interesting one. They were by far and away the front runner in developing a digital television network. Okay. Back before digital was really a thing. I think they started back as far back as 2012, 2010 even. And so I've been sort of confused, to be honest with you, why Major League Baseball would hesitate whatsoever to bring it back underneath their own world. They had BAM Television. They were the technology for WWE Network for a number of years. So they had the whereabouts. They obviously understand that digital TV is the future. The only thing I'm thinking is that, Major League Baseball is something that hometown fans, especially the retirees, the elderly, rely on and watching it. And so they're going to still want to watch it on the local cable TV. So I think that's what they're trying to strive from, what that solution is. If they want to do it on digital, they are set up, ready to go. It can switch in a day. I think they would do a great job with it. But I think, they need to look. I think they may have to go back to the older model, at least short term. There are TV stations in every local market who would be more than happy to air the local. I live in the Cleveland Guardians. Still have a hard time saying that, Cleveland Guardians market. And I'm sure there's a local TV station here who would love to have those rights opposed to the local regional sports network.
Thank you. So getting back into the fight world, one of the things that really, I would say, emerged on this platform is certainly the unique type of sports or fighting arts. Certainly slap fighting was something that got a lot of attention. As we saw a different, I don't know if you would consider it a league yet, but a different take on it emerge on TBS, and with really unfortunate timing, certainly with Dana White's situation and depending on however people feel about the ultimate ratings or the look on TBS, it's been seen as a negative in some ways. Whereas sort of living in a niche where people are comfortable with fight sports, different varieties. Do you think something like that lives best in like a premium service?
Yeah, I think something like slap fighting, I think works on our kind of platform where you have so many different interests there and so forth. We like slap fighting. We like the people we deal with there. It does not have longevity of pro wrestling or boxing or MMA or anything else like that because of the nature of it. Even bare knuckles got much more longevity than slap fighting is. It doesn't have a lot of depth, but it's got great highlights, and people like to see that. And it's interesting there. And frankly, I think there is I think if somebody now watches, since they have something to compare to, a slap fight event opposed to a power slap, you'll see the rules are quite a bit different. And the slap fight there is a little more dangerous, I think. Excuse me, the power slap. And I think the slap fighting will be safer, and that's a relative term in those shows, but safer for the competitors, and they're looking out for the competitors.
So speaking about, safety and promotion, wrestling promoters can be quite creative through the years. Sometimes the ideas seem a little bit too ambitious. I think Brett knows knows that line. Like, it's sort of like, okay, what can I do here? Whereas years prior, maybe with like a combat zone wrestling or something, you'd see like, I'm just making up, but 5 planes of glass and has copy ever come across your desk in preparing for a pay-per-view where you had to call the promoter and be like, I don't think so. Let's dial it back a little bit. Like, how does that relationship work?
We have a pretty good relationship. We try not to tell them how the producer shows. However, there's probably been more than a handful of shows, and we get the title of the show and say, wait a second, guys, you can't use that 4-letter word that starts with F in your title of your show. Come on, guys, give us a break here. Let's not bury yourself right off the bat. But for the actual content there, I mean, I will personally make a few comments, give my opinion, but we try to let them be their own police in that thing, and it's worked out pretty good so far. As for the content itself, we really have had a problem with that. I'm more worried about what's up front when you're scrolling through the fight platform and you see this title with F's all over it. Okay, that probably is not a good way to represent our brand. Sure.
That reminds me, on my, I still have traditional TV too. So sometimes it'll come up on pay-per-view channel 27. A company has like old wrestling footage, and they're really like marketing in a way that kind of makes you feel a little bit sleazy, if you're an order, even though the content is, the same that we might watch, in different platforms. So sometimes it's maintaining that line in the brand, I guess.
No, I'm very familiar with the program you're speaking of, because we have some of those shows too. And there's sometimes we do reject titles because of the title. Say, okay, rename the show. Come on, guys. Yeah.
So love hearing about the Fast channel. One of our friends of the program is Gavin Bridge of Variety and Variety Plus, who is the industry leader in Fast. He keeps the count of all the major streamers and how many stations and where it's going. So it's really interesting to see FITE firstly migrate to Roku, because we had on some of the guys that were programming the wrestling channel, and I was really surprised that it didn't last. Maybe it was just older footage, and it's hard, as you were saying, to like keep things fresh to engage an audience constantly.
You need a pretty huge library like we have. And that's been one of the keys to make it work. But I got to tell you, we've been working on it. You just don't put a channel up and hope it works out. We've been working on this for over 2 years already and tweaking it and having the right partners. We got a company called Doya that we work with, and they take care of the technical part of it, putting the Scuddy ad markers in there so they can run the advertising and things like that, and formatting it to it. So it's sort of art of doing it, and they've done a great job of working with us on it. We supply them the content, and then they make it work there. And and we're excited about how it's working out now. But I got to tell you, it's you got to be a little patient to make it work, and then make that mix that works.
So I've been following Impact's distribution in the fast world, and it takes time, but they've been on a number of the major players. Would that be sort of like the next natural step, or is it like an exclusive with Roku?
Oh, it's not exclusive Roku. We're on 10 platforms already. We got 2 or 3 pretty mainstream ones I can't really say right now because we haven't completed contracts with yet, who are maybe not exactly on the same level Roku, but very much, if I said them, you would know who they are, and they would be considered in that same niche. So, and if I can double and triple our viewership, I'm all for it.
When I think of fast, I also think of like its cousin maybe is sort of like digital sub-tier stations, especially as ATSC 3.0 grows. We've been waiting for it a while, but it seems like eventually that each over-the-air station will have the capability of running 15 or 20 substations or sub-networks. Do you think that might be a play for FITE eventually to be over-the-air in some way?
Well, we have looked into it a little bit. We have had a few conversations, but we're still a pretty small company, so we're walking before we run. Doing that would make sense, and have some opportunity to give us some added exposure to a brand. But on the other hand, we look at things pretty much on a global vision, probably as much as anybody does out there. So we're always looking at things that will be good for us in Europe, for example, and Australia. Our top markets are still all the English-speaking countries, but we have a substantial number of viewers out of the UK for boxing and pro wrestling on a weekly basis, and bare knuckle fighting and so forth. So I think we'll look for more international opportunities before we'll start looking at broadcast digital.
So we've talked about GCW's overall success, but on this show we love lists or numbers or something like that. So, just off the top, what might have been some of the most popular like standalone Fight Plus programming thus far, especially like in pro wrestling?
Well, bare knuckle's done very well. There's a company I'm sure you're familiar, Absolute Intense Wrestling, is coming along pretty well. Sammy Callahan's done a great job with the Revolver series he has. Done some good shows. We did a show about a month ago, the day after an AEW show in Dayton. He did a show in Dayton, which had Moxley on it. It's called Night in the Moxbury. Did quite well for a Thursday night, especially. So we're getting some diversity to it, which is good. And we're continuing. We're in conversations, at least 3 or 4 more pretty mainstream wrestling companies that will probably be moving on to there or hope to be moving on. So it's coming together pretty good. But we have the boxing events too. We had a boxing event from Albuquerque last week that did well on the platform. And it was under the True Fight Club banner. We got another one of those next week, which will probably drive some good viewership as well. So the key to it is really to have as much diversity in the programming as possible.
Do you think there's more room for lucha? I feel like there's been a lot of experimentation, and GCW sort of like has it sort of like within its own niche, but AAA is like there were some contractual issues, but like they're still trying to find their footing. You don't see as much CMLL except on YouTube. Might that be like another venue?
Well, we are working on AAA. We got a show with them March 19th. We got another one April 15th, I think, which are standalone pay-per-views. We've been working with them for about last year now, and good people. We love working with them, working some of the kinks out on communication, production, stuff like that. But probably next step, and hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be able to start working with them to put them on the Fight Plus platform. But we got to get through some of these events here with them. We got 4 events scheduled with them this year. New Japan's in that same area. We've been working with New Japan for a while. We had a very successful show with them a few weeks ago from San Jose. We got their April I think it's called Capital Collision Combat or whatever, something like that, from DC. Um, and working through some of the kinks there on those events, and then the next progression would be to put some of the past events on Fight Plus as well.
Thanks, John.
I don't know how much you're allowed to say or not allowed to say. Like, as far as MLW is concerned, I know they're on Reels right now. Now there's a little bit of controversy. Maybe they might be off of Reels. Is that anything that you would be open to, like maybe bringing them on or had conversations about them? Because I feel like you guys might kind of fill the need that they've been looking to fill, that they kind of, Reels, Vice, YouTube, like they're all over the place. Maybe if they were on Fight, they would kind of not have to deal with, like, are they going to be on Reels in 10 weeks?
No, I've gotten to know Court. I've actually known Court about 7-8 years, and gotten to know Jared the last year or two, working with them. We have attempted to try to work a deal together, and frankly, we just have not been able to. That doesn't mean we won't in the future. The door's wide open for both of us, but it has to work for both of us. The deals that make the right business sense. Their product's on the rise. We love their product. We have done as recently as a few weeks ago conversations about filling in the blanks, because Reels is just in the U.S., but that program, I think it's called Underground, has interest internationally. Well, here we are. We have an international platform that people want to like. That's one of the things I love about our platform. We can give you Poland, or we can give you the whole world, and it works quite well. And we've been very successful. Listen, AEW is a very successful product for us, and we hardly have ever had it on U.S. TV. Obviously, for the Turner, TNT, and TBS reasons and stuff, which is the way it is, and there's no problems there. But I think MLW's got great potential, and we would love to have them on our platform, but we got to make sure we get a deal that both of us are happy with.
Yeah, that's one of the things where I feel like sometimes, and I know we don't know about you guys talking to them, so it's just like in my head, it's like, oh man, MLW might fit with Fight, but obviously you're kind of way ahead and have already been thinking.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it would fit on Fight. We just have to make sure we have what works for both of us. And again, great people, good product. We want to work with them, and hopefully someday we'll come up with a deal that works for both of us.
Would there ever be a chance of, let's say, AEW doing pay-per-views for you guys, like maybe a deal that doesn't have to do anything with Bleacher Report, they just do with you guys as far as pay-per-views, or they only international as far as you know for a time being?
For a time being, it's only international. Bleacher Report's a weird deal, though. Bleacher Report, all they do on pay-per-view is the AEW shows. That's it. There's no other content there on pay-per-view. I'm not even sure there's any other content anymore there. So we've been trying to figure that out, and this is all part of that Warner Discovery situation that Turner's dealing with. And it's a lower priority, I think, for Warner at this point to figure out exactly what to do with Bleacher Report. So right now, I think it's status quo, again, which is fine. We're not going anywhere. We don't know where they're going. They don't know where they're going. And so AEW is doing the right thing by working with them, since they're a sister company to their networks, and obviously their network deals are so important to them. So if I was Tony and his team, I would be doing it exactly the same way as they're doing. Doesn't make me happy, but I would have done it the same way they do it now too. But I think it's good for them. But as soon as it doesn't, Bleacher Report is not available, we're right there for them and can make the switch in a matter of minutes.
And I got to be honest, sometimes Bleacher Report, not the easiest to order from. You might order it twice by accident. Like, there's issues with Bleacher Report. There's no
That's
doubt.
how they make more money. They make you buy it twice. I don't know. I'm just stupid joke, but yeah, I know there's a couple other platforms out there too, like Barstool Sports was a platform at one time I was looking at. Okay, they could do something with this, with wrestling and boxing and stuff like that. But I happen to be a Ohio University alumni, and Ohio U played a bowl game, and I don't know how much you follow college football and bowl games. About the only bowl game that wasn't on ESPN or Fox or even NBC and CBS was on Barstool Sports. It was Ohio University playing, and frankly, most of my old college buddies and my wife included wondered, okay, how did you figure out how to use it? Because they got on there, it was not the most user-friendly platform. I said, okay, well, I don't have to worry about them competing with us. I think they got a fantastic platform for the niche that they fill in sports reporting and stories and commentary. But I don't see their long play being a digital television network.
Yeah, that is definitely an advantage you guys have over a lot of places. Just way easier to use, and that could be, you know,
Well,
basically if somebody can order it or not. It's basically like it's so easy. Order.
well, I think the key to it is this company started out as a technology company, and then I got involved and said, okay, so why don't we go into this world and be in the boxing and wrestling MMA world? And that niche seemed to work out. So it's a little bit different. Almost every other platform out there was the content first, technology second. Well, us, it's been technology first. I'm a co-founder. All the other co-founders are all engineers and financial kind of guys who know the technical part of this business, and it's worked out quite well for us. And having our technology in house, where I can communicate with our CTO as a fellow employee, is just so much more streamlined than anybody out there I'm aware of in the way they have to deal with their setup on their platforms. So it just really worked out a lot better for us doing it that way. If I had to start another company again, I would make sure, if I was a technology driven company, that had that technology in house, not third party.
Now this is going to be crazy, maybe out of the box idea, but right now WWE does house shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, me and Lavie from this area, so we would get the MSG network, which is basically an awesome TV show, but it's a house
Mm-hmm.
show. Sometimes you get a Hogan match. A lot of the times Hogan be on those shows, the big shows, wrestling Bad News Brown, whoever he's wrestling, but you get there. Oh, that's cool.
Wait a
Z
second,
Channel.
John, you're not old enough to remember watching all those guys, are you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm 40 years old. I remember. Oh yeah.
Well,
Hogan's my guy. Hogan is my guy.
well, I
Yeah.
worked at WW in the late '80s, which is now almost 35 years ago, and Bad News Brown and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hogan, all
Yeah.
those, and I was at those shows in the Garden, so I know exactly what you're talking
Oh,
about. Yeah.
awesome. Nice. I might have to ask you something about that off air or something separately about Hogan, but I'll get that, maybe later on, or maybe I'll send you an email. But as far as like, okay, Z Channel, Los Angeles, Nesson, Boston, you got the Prism, Philly. Would Fight TV, and I know WWE Peacock might want to get involved or something, but could Fight TV or Fight Plus or something, could they ever do like house shows? Like we always see Cody Rhodes puts it out there, the shows where they're going to be at. I think it would be awesome to have something else because we don't have MSG channel with, WWE on there. Could Fight possibly fill that void of filming the house shows since WWE has no interest in doing it?
I think they definitely have an interest in doing it. I'm sort of surprised they're not,
Yeah.
because I think in their opinion, and what I think is their opinion, is it's got to look to the level of Fox or nothing, or what they do on Fox and USA every week. It's got to look to that level. So I don't think they want to put a smaller production out there. Okay. Could it be done? Yeah, it could be done overnight. It'd be easy to go in there and do those shows, because it's still nice venues, and bigger venues than say the GCW shows and stuff. I mean, GCW is a good example. You can film those shows almost anywhere, and they work, and fans like them. I think it's very important to them to keep that level of TV production at the highest level. Okay. And that's 150,000, 200,000, depends where you start and stop the financials, production budget they're going to do every show. Okay. Which would not make sense for your quote unquote house shows. AEW, as you know, is sticking their toe in that water. They're
Yes.
starting to do, they got a show, I think, in mid-March here, their first house show, and which will be a non-televised show. So that is a new niche. Could be done, but I don't see WWE ever agreeing to do it with either in-house or I have somebody else doing it.
it would just to me would be awesome because then it's like one place where you get it and they they haven't been putting them on, but people are interested. Like, oh, Cody's fighting Chad Gable, whatever. It's just interesting to us fans that used to love those shows that you're
Well,
getting a little something different that's from the TV product.
well, you also go if you go real old school and wrestling and stuff. Back in the '80s and '90s, when at one point there when I worked at WWF, we were doing 4 different towns a night,
Yeah.
not a week, but a night. There was stuff happening at those shows you didn't really want out there. One, they were testing angles, and stuff, and you didn't have social media back then to report on the results and stuff. You usually maybe had somebody who would call it into Meltzer maybe what the results were, but you really kept it much more guarded then, and you would try stuff out there, and you'd have things happen that you don't really want to have televised. And wrestlers on house shows have much more leeway of talking the audience and working the crowd more than they do on TV. TV is much more scripted and moving things along quicker and so forth to hit those time slots and stuff like that. And I don't think on a house show they want to be beholden to an exact time schedule. They obviously have a plan of how long the show should go, but as we know on televised show, it's down to the second how long things should go.
Well, yeah, well said. That's very, very true. So, as far as Fight, just tell us what's coming up next and kind of where we could find everything Fight Plus, and even the Fast channel.
Well, so on Fight Plus, we did on March 1st. March 1st? No, it was a week before. We raised our price from $4.99 to $7.99, which still makes it, frankly, the best economical bargain out there for combat sports. As you might have read, the Zone just raise the prices to $24.99 a month, and excuse me, I think it's $225 a year, whereas we're at $69 a year. ESPN Plus, which is a very good deal for $9.99 a month. They're doing out there, and so we're very competitive, and frankly, I think we're the best deal out there for the dollar. So we have depth of content. We're always adding. We continue to add in companies' libraries, be it large, be it small. We're moving ICW's library in there, and some of the other companies we got coming up too. So we feel it's a real good deal there. We're also continuing to be in search of the next big events, the next Jake Paul type event. We are doing a Caleb Plant event here in the U.S., boxing event here in late March. There's going to be a weekend in April. It's going to be crazy. We got New Japan, Impact, AAA, all running on the same night. I guess they didn't talk to each other before they scheduled us, but from a wrestling fan, and that's what's nice about our product. You can watch one live and then just be ready to watch the next one in succession on VOD because we have it immediately available afterwards. And as you pointed out, it's very easy to navigate our platform. And of course, a lot of these shows, like the AEW show this Sunday outside the U.S., you can watch it in English, Spanish, French, or German. And actually, the Impact show in April, you can do the same thing: English, Spanish, French, or German as well. So it's a real successful niche of business for us.
And social media wise, where are you guys so everybody can follow you?
It's Follow Fight TV at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Those are the primaries. We do have a TikTok account as well. But yeah, we're pretty easy to find there. It's the Twitter and Instagram is really our key areas. Facebook's good, and YouTube we're sort of revitalizing. We're putting more and more programming onto YouTube now to help people get interested in our programming on Fight. Also, one thing we do too for like boxing and bare knuckle events is we almost always air their weigh-ins, sometimes their press conferences, support event, and sometimes, as you probably would know, those weigh-ins can be almost as entertaining as the shows themselves.
Sometimes better, yeah.
It depends what happens, yeah. Sometimes you'll see more fighting in than you do the actual fight.
Yeah, yep, for sure. But Mike, thank you for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing everybody down the road and make sure everybody goes to download that Fight app. It's FITE, how we like to spell it. And we see you down the road.
Thanks so
All
much.
right, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
All right, Lavie, let's get to the news as we finish up this episode. What's going on with Reels and
Yeah.
MLW?
So, John, I think outside of guests, the last several episodes were branded almost MLW, right? As the subject, and then suddenly, it goes from the best weeks ever to I don't know the worst week ever. But um, so Reels struck a deal with Peacock that seems to be sort of what everything's centered around, and WWE has an exclusive deal with Peacock that no other pro wrestling that's not under their umbrella or authorized by them, I guess, can air. So, look, Reels was starting to dig out to this niche, especially in terms of uh, pro wrestling outside of police shows, that 2 hours and then 2 hour replay. So 4 hours really over, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, depending on what time zone that you're in. And suddenly that's off the board. So, okay, so that was the first thing to hit. But then it started coming out through Variety, firstly, that somebody noticed on Twitter and shared that Major League Wrestling wraps up after 10 weeks, making Reels Tuesdays 10 p.m. linear offerings available after that. So because of this deal and disruption, apparently, Variety, right, a very credible source. Gavin didn't write that article, but Variety, great source for this industry. When they write something, it's not usually by accident, and unless something was misunderstood or something. So then everyone started scrambling, trying to get quotes from MLW or Reels. So Reels issued a statement to PW Insider, and then it was shared more broadly later. No decision has been made by MLW or Reels, and we are both committed to a good outcome for MLW, its fans, and Reels. So that kind of seemed bleak. That wasn't a denial to say that, no, there's no disruption. It just won't air on Peacock. It seems like, something is afoot. Now, rounding out its bad week on Reels while it airs, is that it didn't make the top 50. And John, you and I have been talking back and forth. Do we add this replay? Do we not? And so on. So, just in terms of simplicity's sake, last week, the first run, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, did almost 100,000 viewers. And this week, it's reported 50,000. So, when it's 100,000 or lower, like, right, Nielsen has it down to a science, but like, that's just really modest variance in viewers. So you don't want to discount it, right? If you celebrate the 100, you don't say the 50 doesn't mean anything, but you really need to look at it over a number of weeks. Hopefully we'll have 10 weeks, hopefully more, as pro wrestling fans to examine the numbers, but it just wasn't a good week for MLW. And John, you may have come up with the future solution here in terms of having a bigger presence at FITE, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Right. It just seems like, I don't know, Reels. I guess that is short-term answer, but not the long-term answer. Again, MLW, right? I mean, it's just, and I know Mike Johnson had put that out there, but it's like, damn, like, never get. I want the long-term solution, not the short-term for them, for
Yeah, no,
MLW.
it's very hard to be in that position. Yes, you could sort of like twist yourself into a PR pretzel or something, saying that, look, it exposed us to a different viewership. Now we have more Twitter followers, YouTube followers, whatever. But to be a two-time, okay, so you're no longer on BN Sports. Apparently, we haven't. There's been no announcement. We haven't seen on the
But they're
schedule.
not on there. Yeah.
Right. As their distribution diminished. Then, at the same time, what was it, a year ago? It was Vice that's, litigated what happened there. And now here, it seemed like you finally found a home. There was a great article. Court Bauer loves all the programming that's on Reels. He watches the police shows and so on. And then suddenly, if it's true, 10 weeks later, they're off of there. Yes, they at least when they did 100,000, there was a proof of concept. So if I was a station that's sort of looking to find its footing in cable, MLW is a pretty good what do they call that? Switch hitter, whatever position in baseball is the most appropriate one. But it wouldn't hurt, to pick them up. It's a watchable hour, but it's hard in terms of getting a good deal. Like, where do you go, from here? Access obviously loves wrestling, but they have their own in-house. They did a deal with New Japan, but it's not hitting as well in the ratings as it used to. So I don't know, what would happen there, but where else would you go? It's just you really do have to look more towards the streamers, and then hopefully make up ground if you need to, in Europe and around the world, as they have some deals already standing with their other show.
So what's going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Yeah, so just a piece here, as we talked about a few weeks ago, their U.S. distribution strategy, they simplified it where they'll just have these premium shows, just a few shows in the U.S., and then they air it on pay-per-view live. Then they chop it up and they put it on premium through their New Japan World. But now they're also going to take, I don't know, every show, but we see with the first show, Battle in the Valley, it's actually going to air on Access TV as well. So that's actually a curious rating to look at with Mercedes Monet. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. Where if they have to show it, right? When they show her match, to see what type of ratings that draws. She's such a crossover star that I watch with my wife a lot of the NBC programming on demand, all the Law and Orders, all the Chicago shows, and they have this um, these public announcements where they're telling you to if you see somebody behind you in line of coffee, pay for their coffee. Things are a little bit silly, but they have Natalie Neidhart and by her previous name Mercedes Monet, and they're on constantly. So there's actually this crossover thing where you recognize her besides wrestling, Star
Mandalorian.
Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mandalorian. She'll be back on this season.
Yes, I have to catch up. I tried to watch some of that stuff when the kids were sleeping, but somehow it was in a different language, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I'll have to come back to it.
Oh my God, Lavie. Come on, Lavie. So as far as NWA, what's going the latest with the NWA?
Yeah, so a quick piece on them as well. They're excuse me. The NWA versus AAA show that's part of the big Corgan, The World is a Vampire show in Mexico. It's not going to stream live, but they're going to air. I don't know if they'll air a whole show, but they'll air a piece at a later date. So, it might be hard to get a great angle for something that's set up mostly for a concert. But they can show this gigantic audience that's watching their title match or a few matches. So visually, that'll be a good thing for them, no matter how they distribute it.
What about Cody Rhodes? We were kind of briefly mentioning with Mike about house shows stuff, but man, he does an awesome job for WWE as far as their business is concerned, pumping up the house shows better than anybody else.
Yeah, as you mentioned that before, I think he's really smart. He had his, maybe it was made by WWE in-house or through his own initiative. He has a little graphic where he's like, hey, these are all the shows that I'm going to be on. Come, basically come see me, which it sounds like promotion 101, but WWE has really gotten away from that. And he's, in my opinion, the best at promoting his own events of anyone in WWE, certainly maybe in AEW. And I think that's a trait learned from his years in the independent scene, really, as he helped to birth, All In. And if he's going to be somewhere, why should he treat it like it's just a non-televised event, especially Madison Square Garden, and so on. So really smart move.
So what's going on the latest with WOW, WOW?
Yes, John, you breaking the news to me, and then I learned about it. So, WoW is going to be on. They've already had a relationship with Pluto, but I don't know how this changes because when it first was revived here, there was the CW Seed. As that station ownership has changed, I don't know if the focus has changed as well, but Pluto seems like a a great way to go. Now that I'm talking about it, I might have mixed up when talking to Mike Roku, which is how I access Pluto, and talking about pro wrestling channel. So apologies if I did mix that up. Of course, I was referring to the Pluto wrestling channel, but more content for WoW. Kind of like behind the scenes about restarting the company, some biographies. Some people might say that's a vanity project, for its owner, Jeannie Buss, but it sounds interesting to me, and I'll watch it.
What about Impact? I know they've got a lot of news.
Yeah, so Vegas, in the smaller venue, which a lot of pro wrestling promotions run, in the casino, they sold out the first night. I think they sold out the second night. I hate to keep calling him Sign Guy Dudley, but I keep going back to that. He said, basically said the second night and showed a picture. It looked sold out. I'm not sure how they did the third night, but they should take these small wins. And then I saw. A media article where it says Sling TV will have new channels, and it included Impact and Fight. And we know that Anthem is really good at this sort of distribution. But again, mentioning Gavin Bridge, he messaged me very quickly or DM me that these are not new channels. It's just that Sling has been rebranding sort of how it distributes.
What is Lucha Vavoom?
So Lucha Vavoom is one of those quasi pro wrestling companies that no one in wrestling talks about. It's sort of it's wrestling and it's burlesque in a very different way, right? When we talk about what's the semi wrestling where they kind of look like block characters from Japan?
The kaiju battle?
Yeah, yes, thank you, John. Kaiju. So
Yeah.
this is nothing like kaiju, but what I mean by that is that they're both semi pro wrestling, but a lot of people don't consider it pro wrestling, so no one talks about it, but they're both successful. So Lucha Vavoom, for years in LA, they've done well, in theaters or wherever they run. So notably, and everyone always talks about this in pro wrestling, wanting to do it. They're actually doing it for a limited time. They're running 9 shows residency at the House of Blues inside the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino. So this is kind of a big deal. And from traditional pro wrestling, the talent that would be most familiar would be Taya Valkyrie. So interesting to see how that goes, if they return, and if we start seeing that being a thing for additional pro wrestling. As everyone's always talked about, Vegas, it always has tourists. We could just set up residency there and tape there every week, or run a ton of shows, but it doesn't seem to work. How
And finally, what about Apple TV Monster Factory, the big documentary that they're working on?
Yeah, so everyone always talks about, will Apple get into pro wrestling, right? Will the Fangs bid on pro wrestling? So this isn't like a big jump in, but Monster Factory, closer to you, John.
Yeah,
Um, I don't follow them on social media, but I hadn't heard no one talk about this, and then suddenly here it is, a pro wrestling documentary on Apple TV, and no one knew that it was coming. So a nice get for them, and good luck.
nice documentary to be doing though. Monster Factory, they got a long storied history. Bam Bam Bigelow, and of course, God, many others. Buddy Roger, God, it goes back a long ways, but legendary place.
Yeah, I would love to see. I did not to sound crass or whatever. I don't really care what's going on there now. I want to see if they had footage. I don't think they do, as with the ownership changes and so on. But I'd love to see what they were doing in 1985 to
Yes.
1990.
Yes. So let's head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Lavie, what do you got?
So, a reminder of our new but growing LinkedIn group, the Business of the Business Pro Wrestling Industry. Come on aboard, whether you're in the industry or you're just an observer or fan of the show. We'd love to connect with you. It's actually been an interesting way to connect with some of our listeners. Thank you for reaching out. Follow me on Twitter at LavieMarg, LavieMarg, and some of my more historic or long form articles are available, and book reviews are available on linecubjobsearch.com.
All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.